18-year-old Elias Vance stood frozen in the crimson ceremonial robes, every thread heavy enough to chain him to a fate he never chose. The corporate drums boomed low and relentless through the glass atrium of the Sterling Tower, shaking the polished marble floors of the Phoenix Wing, and every echo screamed one unforgivable truth. His fiancée was dead. Caleb Sterling, the young, brilliant alpha he had been promised to since childhood, the man his age he'd laughed with, planned a future with, was gone forever. And in his place, the board of directors had ripped up every engagement contract, shredded every gentle promise, and handed Elias over to the only man left who could save the alliance, secure the corporate bloodline, and lock the two families into unbreakable peace. Julian Sterling, Caleb's 44-year-old father. His father-in-law. No soft prelude. No gentle bargaining. No time to grieve. The family elders had cornered him the second the battlefield messengers returned with Caleb's body. Marry the CEO or the borders burn. Marry the CEO or your family falls to ruin. Marry the CEO or the entire Southern Division brands you accursed, unworthy Omega until your dying breath. Elias had no choice. He was the Vance family's most precious Omega, their jewel, their so-called gentle lily of the South. And now he was nothing but a political bargaining chip draped in red silk and gold embroidery. Stop staring at the mirror like you've been sentenced to a tomb, his mother snapped, dabbing fake tears away with a silk handkerchief. Her voice was sharp with aspiration, not sorrow. This is an honor. You stand to be the only chairman's spouse the four conglomerates have ever seen. Bound to the most powerful alpha alive. CEO Julian Sterling rules with unshakable strength. He will protect our people. He will erase the cursed star rumors that have clung to you since birth. Elias's obsidian eyes flashed cold and biting. No trace of the soft, docile Omega everyone expected him to be. He twisted the ceremonial crown on his head, the cold metal digging sharp lines into his scalp, and bit back a bitter laugh. Honor? You call this honor? I was supposed to marry a boy who shared my youth. I was supposed to laugh at galas, ride beside him in corporate parades, build a life with someone who understood me. Instead, you hand me to a man old enough to have watched my father grow into adulthood. A man who was meant to receive my formal tea, to be my father-in-law, not share my bed. The family patriarch, his father, stepped into the chamber, his jaw locked hard with unyielding authority. His voice boomed, sharp enough to cut through Elias's quiet rebellion. Watch your tongue, boy. Caleb died a hero's death on the Northern Front, leaving the corporation without an heir. CEO Julian Sterling has not touched another soul in 20 years, not since his late spouse passed. The bloodline dies without you. The alliance shatters without you. The conglomerate fractures without a new heir. You will obey. You will perform your duty. You will not shame this family with childish tantrums. Duty? Elias hissed, the word dripping with venomous sarcasm. He spun on his heel, the crimson robes flaring around his ankles like flickering fire. You all speak of duty, but none of you dare speak the truth. You are selling me to a wolf to save your own titles, your own lands, your own comfortable lives. Fine. I will wear the crown. I will walk the aisle. I will play the obedient spouse for the board. But do not mistake my silence for submission. The wolf will learn soon enough. This lily has thorns. The whispers followed him the second he stepped into the grand hall, toxic and sharp, weaving through the incense-thick air like hidden blades. The cursed Omega. Bad luck to any alpha who bonds with him. First his fiancée dies. Now he climbs into the CEO's bed to save himself. Elias heard every word, every sneer, every quiet judgment from the robed executives lining the aisle. He did not flinch. He did not bow his head. He kept his chin high, his step steady, his grip tight on the ceremonial fan in his hand. They wanted a meek, broken bride. They would get a storm disguised in silk. At the end of the hall, beneath the ancestral portraits carved with centuries of corporate history, stood CEO Julian Sterling. The air bent to him. The room quieted for him. He was a mountain of a man, broad-shouldered, battle-scarred, cloaked in dark crimson robes stitched with five-clawed golden dragons that glinted under the hall lanterns. His face was carved cold, sharp angles. No softness, no warmth, no hint of mercy. His amber eyes cut through the crowd, steady, unreadable, heavy with the weight of 25 years of unbroken corporate rule. Alpha pressure rolled off him in thick, crushing waves, forcing every other Omega in the hall to bow instinctively, their bodies surrendering to his dominance without thought. Only Elias stood tall. Only Elias refused to yield. The scent hit him first as he reached the altar. Sandalwood, aged parchment, and a faint metallic tang of unshielded steel. The scent of a warrior, not a corporate noble. The scent of a man who had spent more years putting down rebellions, executing traitors, and fighting boardroom wars than he had spent in peaceful chambers. The grand priest's voice echoed through the silent hall, formal and unyielding. Bow to heaven and earth. They bent in unison. Elias leaned in, his voice low enough only for Julian's sharp ears to catch, bold and unafraid. Do not expect me to be quiet and obedient like your late spouse, Your Excellency. I am not built for silent compliance. Julian's jaw tightened. A flicker of surprise crossed his amber eyes. Then something darker, something almost amused, rare and unguarded for a split second. His deep, vibrating baritone rumbled back, quiet enough to stay between them. You are younger than I expected, and far bolder. Elias straightened, tilting his head in sharp retort. You are far older than the husband I was promised. I suppose we both must bear our disappointments with grace. A collective gasp rippled through the hall. No one spoke to the Dragon CEO like this. No one dared challenge his authority, not even high-ranking directors, not even family elders. The elders paled, hands tightening on their robes, certain the CEO would strike the insolent Omega down where he stood in this farce of a wedding before it was sealed. Instead, Julian reached out. His large, calloused hand, roughened from years of gripping contract pens and boardroom gavels, closed gently around Elias's delicate fingers. His touch was firm, steady, but unexpectedly soft. No cruelty, no force, no claim. He guided him through the final bow, silent and unreadable. The ceremony is complete, the priest boomed. The spouse is crowned. The wedding feast blurred into a haze of forced smiles, bitter wine, and endless calculating stares. Elias endured it all, his expression blank, his mind already fixed on the bedchamber waiting at the end of the night. He knew what everyone expected. He knew the elders would wait outside the doors for proof of consummation, for the mark that secured the bloodline, that locked the alliance in place. He knew they all expected him to submit quietly, to do his duty, to break beneath the CEO's alpha power. Let them wait. Night fell, and the red veil was lowered over Elias's head once more. The penthouse suite, the CEO's private quarters, reeked of jasmine and heavy, earthy musk. The candles flickered low, casting long, distorted shadows across the gilded walls. The massive silk-draped bed dominated the room, its sheets crisp white, unmarked, a silent test waiting to be failed. The door creaked open. Heavy footsteps thudded across the floor. The sandalwood scent swelled, thick and inescapable. A golden rod lifted the veil, and Elias looked up, eyes bright with defiance, cheeks flushed with suppressed temper and wine warmth. Julian stood before him, outer ceremonial robes discarded, dressed only in a plain inner tunic that revealed the breadth of his shoulders, the old scars crisscrossing his forearms, proof of decades of corporate warfare, of battles won. of enemies crushed beneath his rule. He looked every inch the unyielding alpha CEO. No softness, no weakness, no mercy. Elias crossed his arms, leaning back against the silk pillows, unafraid, unbowed. My parents think I am a delicate little flower. They think I will weep, tremble, and submit the second you look at me with alpha authority. I should warn you now, Your Excellency, I am a headache you never asked for. I will not bend. I will not break. I will not be quiet. Julian unbuckled his belt slowly, his expression unreadable. No anger, no irritation, just quiet observation. He stepped closer, looming over the bed, his shadow swallowing Elias whole. I have ruled a conglomerate for 25 years, he said, his voice low and dangerous, rumbling through the room. I have put down rebellions. I have executed traitors. I have survived wars that would break lesser men. Do you truly believe a sassy, sharp-tongued Omega will be my undoing? He leaned down, his breath stirring the hair at Elias's temple, his amber eyes darkening with a hunger that had lain dormant, untouched for 20 long years. You wanted a husband. Now you have one. Let us see if you can handle the dragon's fire. Elias's breath hitched, but he did not back down. When Julian's hand moved to unfasten his inner robe, Elias shot upright, scrambling backward until his spine hit the carved wooden headboard with a sharp thud. Don't you dare, he hissed, eyes flashing like flint struck against stone. Take one more step, and I will bite you. And I have not had my teeth filed soft for corporate manners lately. Julian froze mid-movement. The room turned icy cold, his alpha aura bristling at the blatant, unapologetic defiance. That title, father-in-law, no longer applies, he said, tone sharp with quiet authority. This marriage is sealed by heaven. It is sealed for the bloodline. It is sealed for the conglomerate. I am your husband now. The heavens must have been drunk when they signed the papers. Elias shot back, grabbing a silk bolster and hugging it tight to his chest like a shield. I was promised a 20-year-old heir full of life and laughter, not a 44-year-old relic who probably remembers the day the conglomerate was founded. I am 18. I should be riding horses, sneaking sweets, causing harmless trouble in the southern gardens, not playing obedient spouse to a stranger old enough to be my father. Julian's jaw tightened, a muscle pulsing sharply in his cheek. His dark cedar and cold iron alpha scent flooded the room, heavy and dominant, but he did not lash out. He did not reach for Elias. He did not use his strength or his status to force compliance. I married you for an heir, he said plainly. No excuses, no soft lies. My son is dead. My throne has no continuation. You are the only high-blooded Omega in the 4 corporations eligible to stand beside me. It is your duty to bear the next heir. Elias smirked, sharp and sarcastic, unshaken by the alpha pressure rolling over him. Then take a concubine. Oh wait, you're the devoted widower, aren't you? Too noble for a harem, too loyal to your late spouse to ever touch another. Don't break your perfect streak just for me. Go bathe in cold water and leave me in peace. That was the edge of his limit. Julian lunged forward, palms slamming down on the mattress on either side of Elias's hips, trapping him in place. His massive frame loomed over the smaller Omega. The closeness was suffocating, overwhelming, inescapable. Elias's heart hammered hard against his ribs, fear flaring low in his chest, but he refused to show it. He stared straight into Julian's amber eyes, unyielding, defiant to the last. You think this is a game? Julian growled, voice dropping to a dangerous rumble. The elders wait outside that door. The entire corporation waits for word of our union. The rival families watch for weakness. If we fail to consummate this marriage, we all fall. Elias shrugged, reckless and bold. Tell them you're tired. Tell them your back aches. You're old enough for everyone to believe it easily. For a long, heavy moment, Julian only stared down at him. He saw the sharp tongue, the sassy smirk, the bold defiance. But beneath it all, he saw the faint, involuntary tremble in Elias's hands. He saw the quiet terror of an 18-year-old who had lost his fiancée in a heartbeat, been ripped from his home, and sold to a stranger all in the span of 7 days. He saw a child forced to carry the weight of a conglomerate on his slender shoulders. Julian pulled back, releasing him, stepping away from the bed. His shoulders relaxed, the lethal edge of his aura fading. "Fine," he said, voice cold but no longer hostile. "I will not force a cub who barks louder than he bites. Do not mistake this for victory, though. You are my spouse. You will sleep in this bed. But you stay on your side. I stay on mine." Elias scrambled instantly to the far left side of the bed, dragging a heavy silk quilt with him, relief flooding his chest. "If I feel so much as one toe brush against me in the dark, I'm kicking you straight onto the floor." Julian said nothing. He crossed the room, extinguished all but one faint moonlit candle, and lay rigid on the right side of the mattress. The silence stretched thick between them, cold and unspoken, miles of resentment and misunderstanding separating them on the same small bed. The wedding night passed without a single touch, without a single soft word, without a single step toward connection. Dawn came too soon. The heavy penthouse doors creaked open right as the first pale sunlight touched the tower's glass roof. The grand matriarch stepped inside, her eyes sharp and hawk-like, followed by 2 nervous, trembling assistants. Her only task, the ancient tradition demanded, was to inspect the sheets for proof of union, proof the conglomerate needed to feel secure. She held up the pristine, snow-white silk sheet to the light. Not a mark, not a wrinkle, not a single trace of what the board expected to see. A sharp, disappointed click of her tongue cut through the quiet room. Elias peeked over the edge of his blanket, eyes still heavy with sleep, hair a tangled mess, looking every bit like a grumpy, unamused kitten woken too early. "The sheet is as clean as fresh winter snow, Your Excellency," the matriarch reported stiffly, turning to Julian, who was already fully dressed, seated at his desk, scrolling through corporate scrolls as if nothing had happened at all, as if he hadn't spent the night arguing with a stubborn teenager. No sign of consummation, no proof of heir potential. Julian did not look up from his work. His voice was calm, unconcerned, unbothered. The Empress was fatigued. "We rest tonight." The matriarch turned her critical gaze directly to Elias, disapproval thick in every line of her face. "Fatigued at 18? I have seen more life in a bowl of cold congee." Elias sat up fully, stretching lazily, a mischievous, unapologetic smirk tugging at his lips. He didn't hold back, not for tradition, not for respect, not for the matriarch status. Or perhaps the CEO is simply out of practice, grandmother. It has been 20 years, after all. Maybe the great dragon has forgotten how to fly. The assistants gasped so loud they dropped their brass trays, the clatter echoing through the quiet chamber. The matriarch's face turned a deep, furious shade of purple, matching her formal robes perfectly. She stormed out without another word, already marching toward the boardroom to gather the elders and plot intervention. An hour later, the boardroom hummed with low, panicked whispers. 3 elders sat around a polished wooden table, their faces grave, somber, as if attending a corporate funeral instead of a marriage check-in. "Nothing happened," the first elder whispered, horrified, hands wringing together anxiously. "The alliance depends on an heir. If the spouse remains untouched, the rival families will whisper the CEO is weak. They will see a crack in our power. They will plan rebellion. We cannot afford this. It is worse than weakness," the matriarch huffed, pacing the room sharply, irritation rolling off her. "The boy is not the gentle lily we were promised. He is a firebrand." He called the CEO an old relic to his face. He mocks tradition. He mocks duty. He has no reverence for the throne. He is a thorn bush wrapped in red silk, not a delicate flower. The second elder stroked his chin, eyes glinting with scheming purpose. If they will not fall into each other's arms naturally, we must assist them. We have methods, subtle methods. No force, no scandal. Aphrodisiac in sense, the third elder suggested quietly. The CEO would scent it instantly. The matriarch snapped, shaking her head. He has a warrior's nose for tricks. We need something, a romantic retreat. A locked library chamber. A carefully accidental dose of spiced plum wine. Or better yet, assign them joint corporate duties. Let them bicker side by side until their irritation melts into passion. Heat is just passion wearing a frown. The first elder nodded firmly, slamming a palm lightly on the table. We act before the next full moon. I want that spouse with child by then. If gentle schemes fail, I will begin adding invigorating stamina herbs to the CEO's morning tea. He will not resist nature. Back in the penthouse, Elias had already forgotten the council's panic entirely. He was balanced precariously on a wooden chair, robes tucked up around his waist like a common assistant, stretching high to reach a ceramic jar of candied plums perched on the top shelf of the pantry nook. The corporate kitchen staff fed him only bland lotus soup, plain, tasteless, fit for a sick elder, not a growing, hungry 18-year-old spouse. He needed sugar. He needed flavor. He needed his favorite plums. Your Excellency. The deep, familiar voice boomed from the doorway. Elias jumped, nearly toppling off the chair, flailing his arms to steady himself. He twisted around, cheeks flushing faint pink, to see Julian standing in the entrance, regal, composed, and utterly exhausted from dealing with the elder's nonstop scheming. "What are you doing?" Julian asked, staring pointedly at Elias's bare exposed ankles, clearly unamused by the unroyal sight. "I'm hungry," Elias said simply. No apologies, no excuses. Your kitchen feeds me like I'm an elderly crane surviving on dew and plain broth. I'm a growing boy. I need sugar. I need plums. Julian walked forward in 2 easy strides, reached up effortlessly, and grabbed the jar down without even stretching. He held it out to Elias, his expression neutral, but his eyes softening faintly. "The elders are worried," he said quietly. "They think I cannot perform my duty. They think our union will fail." Elias popped a sweet plum into his mouth, grinning mischievously around the fruit, eyes sparkling with teasing light. "Well, are you capable, Your Excellency?" Julian leaned in slowly, amber eyes glinting with a rare, playful spark, one no one else in the corporation ever saw. "Would you like to find out? Or shall I let the matriarch keep flooding my chambers with stamina soup every hour until you surrender?" Elias choked on his plum, coughing violently, eyes widening in shock. They're doing what? And so the tactical war began. The penthouse was no longer a place of quiet dignity, corporate rituals, and serious state business. It became a battlefield. On one side, the Council of Elders, armed with ancient romantic tricks, herbal soups, locked rooms, and matchmaker schemes. On the other side, Elias Vance, armed with a sharp tongue, zero sense of corporate shame, and endless chaotic energy. Caught directly in the middle, CEO Julian Sterling, rapidly realizing that quelling boardroom rebellions and ruling a conglomerate was infinitely easier than managing a stubborn, sassy 18-year-old spouse. The first strike landed at midday lunch. The grand dining hall usually smelled of delicate broths, steamed fish, and soft floral teas. Today, it reeked of heavy, earthy musk, fermented roots, and something sharp enough to sting the eyes. Steam curled thick from every bowl on the table, fogging the air. Elias poked a shriveled, brown floating root in his bowl with a silver chopstick, nose wrinkling in disgust. What is this? It looks like a dehydrated human finger. I am not eating this. The first elder cleared his throat formally, feigning dignified innocence. That is 1,000-year sea dragon root, Your Excellency. It restores blood vitality. It strengthens lower body stamina. It is highly beneficial for alpha performance. Julian stared down at his own bowl, unamused, clearly offended. I am 44, not dead. I do not need restoring stamina roots. Drink it. Elias grinned, pushing his bowl toward Julian, thoroughly enjoying the chaos. The elder is right. You're at that age where you need all the help you can get. Can't have you falling asleep mid-board meeting now, can we? Julian's eye twitched, irritation mounting fast. Elias leaned in, voice dropping to a playful whisper only the CEO could hear. If I drink this, I'll be climbing the walls with restless energy all night. And since you refuse to touch me, I'll have no choice but to go flirt with the security guards for entertainment. Your call, Your Excellency. Julian grabbed his spoon, scooped a massive, begrudging mouthful of the bitter soup, and swallowed it down in one go, just to shut Elias up. Within minutes, his neck flushed bright, alarming red, heat rushing through his veins, his skin prickling with unnatural warmth. The elders hid quiet, triumphant smiles behind their sleeves. The second move was even more direct. That afternoon, the elders invited the couple to the Moonlight Study to discuss minor corporate paperwork, a harmless official pretext. The second Elias and Julian stepped inside the quiet, secluded wing, the heavy oak doors slammed shut behind them. A loud, echoing clang rang out as a thick brass bolt slid firmly into place, locking them inside with no way out. Hey, Elias yelped, running to the door and kicking it hard with his heel. Open up. I haven't had my dessert plums yet. This is a legal corporate detention. The lock mechanism is jammed. The second elder called cheerfully from the other side, fake concern dripping from his voice. The technician will require 6 hours to arrive. You two must simply keep warm together. Do enjoy the spiced plum wine on the table. It's very fine, very warming. Elias spun around. The entire room was lined with hundreds of flickering romantic candles. Thick, heady love incense clouded the air, strong enough to knock a full-grown horse unconscious. The wine on the table steamed faintly, clearly laced with extra herbs to amplify warmth and longing. Julian had sunk onto a rosewood chair, tugging at his collar, his face already flushed from the lunchtime sea dragon root soup colliding with the romantic incense. He looked like a man desperately solving complex math equations in his head just to keep his sanity intact. They are complete idiots, Julian gritted out, voice deeper than usual, strained by the heat building in his body. They're not idiots, Elias snorted, walking over to sniff the wine before recoiling in disgust. They're matchmakers with a death wish. This wine smells like a brothel bottled up in glass. Drink it, and you'll probably end up proposing to the bookshelf. Instead of surrendering to the scheme, Elias climbed onto the polished study table, pushed aside scrolls and ink stones, and began yanking open the high, narrow windows lining the wall. Fresh, cool air rushed in, cutting through the thick incense fog. What are you doing now? Julian groaned, rubbing his temples, already drained. Escaping, Elias said simply. I told you. I'm not sharing a bed with you, and I'm definitely not getting trapped in a locked room with a drugged, overheated CEO. You look like you're about to combust any second. I am fine, Julian hissed, even as a bead of sweat rolled down his temple, betraying his words. Elias hooked his robes up to his knees, exposing his slender calves, and began climbing carefully up the wooden bookshelf toward the open window latch. Sure you are. I'm heading out the window to the service quarters roof. Fresh air, freedom, no stamina soup. You are the spouse of the conglomerate, Julian snapped, trying to stand, his movements slower than usual from the heat. You cannot climb corporate roofs like a common thief. It is undignified. It shames the crown. Watch me. Elias was already halfway out the window. Then disaster struck. His heavy red ceremonial sash, looped around his waist, caught hard on a decorative stone dragon gargoyle carved into the window frame. He froze mid-climb, one leg dangling over empty air, upper body stuck to the stone, hanging 3 feet off the ground like a piece of wet laundry strung out to dry. "Oh," Elias muttered, face heating up in embarrassment. Julian's protective instincts kicked in instantly, overriding every ounce of drug-induced haze and frustration. He surged forward to the window, ignoring the dizziness rushing through his head, and looked out to see his spouse dangling helplessly in midair. "Don't just stand there staring at my backside, Your Excellency. Help me," Elias yelped, flailing his arms uselessly. Julian didn't know whether to laugh until his sides hurt or march out and triple tax every elder in the tower immediately. He chose rescue first. He stretched his massive arms out the window, wrapped his hands firmly around Elias's waist, and hauled him back inside in one sharp, smooth motion. The momentum sent them both crashing backward onto the study floor in a messy heap. Elias landed directly on top of Julian's chest, legs tangled in robes, faces inches apart, breaths mixing fast. The incense swirled thick around them. The heat between them rose. Silence fell, heavy, charged. Julian's hands were still locked tight around Elias's waist, holding him close, feeling the heat of his body through thin silk. His amber eyes darkened, a raw, unexpected heat flaring deep in his gaze. No longer drugged irritation, but genuine, unspoken attraction. "You," Julian rumbled, voice low and rough, "are either going to be my greatest blessing or my worst catastrophe." Elias's sassy mask slipped for a split second, his breath catching as he felt the CEO's strong, steady heartbeat beneath his palms. He whispered, half teasing, half genuine, "You have a very hard chest. Battle shield, or just for show?" Julian's grip tightened. His gaze dropped to Elias's soft lips. For a heartbeat, it looked like he would lean up and kiss him, and all the bickering would surrender to the heat. Then the study doors burst open wide. The elders rushed in, followed by the matriarch, all ready to save the situation, only to freeze mid-step, eyes wide, jaws dropping open. They saw the CO disheveled on the floor, robes askew, the spouse sprawled across his chest, books scattered everywhere, silk hiked up, candles flickering low. The matriarch's lips curled into a triumphant, knowing smirk. "Progress," she purred. "It's not progress." Elias scrambled off Julian's chest, face flaming bright red, embarrassment flooding him. "I was stuck. He was rescuing me from the window." "Of course you were, dear child," the matriarch said patronizingly, clearly not believing a word. "The dragon certainly did plenty of rescuing. We shall leave you two to continue uninterrupted." The doors slammed shut again, locking them inside a second time, the key left firmly in the lock. Elias stared at the door, then slowly turned back to Julian, who was standing up, brushing dust off his robes, his hands shaking faintly from suppressed emotion. "I hate them," Elias muttered darkly. "I will double their bonuses tomorrow," Julian replied dryly. "Triple," Elias suggested immediately. "And buy me 2 jars of Southern Market candied plums as compensation. If I have to endure sea dragon root farts all night, I deserve a reward." Julian actually laughed, a deep, rare, genuine sound that echoed softly through the quiet study, a sound no executive had heard in years. "Deal. Now get to the bedside. If you try climbing out another window tonight, I will tie you gently to the bedpost." Elias winked, playful tension returning full force. "Threat or promise, Your Excellency?" The morning after the study incident, the entire tower buzzed with gossip. Thick and juicy, the kind of chatter that usually only came before corporate coups or official air announcements. The elders practically skipped through the garden corridors, fully convinced their soup and locked room tactics had finally broken the ice between the cold dragon CEO and his fiery young spouse. Elias, meanwhile, was hanging upside down from a cherry blossom tree in the private rooftop garden, robes tucked messily into his trousers, swinging lazily back and forth, thoroughly unbothered by corporate rumors. His head assistant stood below, wringing his hands in pure panic, near tears. "Your Excellency, please get down. The neighboring clan executives are arriving for the chrysanthemum banquet any moment. If they see you swinging like a wild mountain monkey, our family's dignity will be dragged through the mud for generations." Elias bit off a cherry blossom petal, chewing lazily. Let them. If they wanted a perfect, orchid-all empress who never misbehaves, they should have married a vase instead of me. By midday, the grand hall filled with expensive incense, rustling silk robes, and the low murmur of powerful political guests. The formidable Hua clan had arrived, critical corporate allies to the conglomerate. Their leader, General Marcus Hua, was a tall, scarred alpha battle veteran, once Caleb's personal mentor before the young heir's death. Beside him stood his arrogant son, Damien Hua, a young, entitled alpha who had once openly competed for Elias's hand before the original betrothal to Caleb was finalized. The second Elias stepped into the hall, properly robed, though his hair was still wind-tousled from tree swinging. The room went dead silent. All eyes locked onto him. Curious, judgmental, calculating. He walked calmly to the corporate dais where Julian sat, the CEO every inch the iron-fisted ruler, cold, regal, unyielding. "You are late," Julian murmured quietly as Elias sat beside him. No sharp scolding, no public reprimand. His amber eyes flickered to a faint smudge of dirt on Elias's cheek from the garden, and without a second thought, he reached out, thumb brushing the dirt away gently, right in front of the entire board. The court collectively held its breath. The cold, unfeeling dragon CEO had just shown public affection. Unprecedented. Unbelievable. "I had a disagreement with a cherry tree," Elias whispered back, grinning faintly. "The tree lost." General Hua bowed formally. "We come to offer condolences for the late heir Caleb and to witness the stability of the new union." Yet whispers travel fast across the clans. Many say the marriage was rushed. Many say the spouse is far too young to bear the weight of the crown alone. Damien Hua stepped forward, eyes lingering greedily on Elias's waist, bold and disrespectful, his tone thick with false concern and hidden insult. "An Omega as delicate as Lord Elias deserves a husband who can keep up with his energy." Surely the CEO's advanced age and endless heavy responsibilities leave the poor spouse lonely and neglected in the cold tower chambers. The room turned icy cold. It was a direct, unforgivable insult to Julian's age, his strength, his ability to satisfy his young mate, his competence as a ruler. Julian's hand tightened hard on the armrests, knuckles whitening, his alpha aura flaring sharp and dangerous, ready to crush the young alpha where he stood. But a public brawl would dishonor the throne, weaken the alliance, play right into the enemy clan's hands. Elias had no such limits. He cared nothing for corporate decorum, nothing for political politeness, nothing for Damien's arrogant pride. Lonely, Elias laughed, the sound clear, bright, cutting through the tense silence like silver bells. He stood up, smoothing his crimson robes, every movement confident, unshaken. "Your son has a very wild imagination, General Hua. Perhaps he spends too much time standing idle in the sun without a helmet, rotting his common sense." "Elias," Julian warned quietly, but there was faint pride glinting in his amber eyes, quiet admiration for his mate's boldness. "No, let me speak." Elias stepped down from the dais, walking slow and deliberate toward Damien, circling the young alpha like a predator sizing up weak prey. You speak of energy, young Master Hua. Is that why you lost the spring archery tournament last year to this so-called delicate Omega? Is that why you remain a low-level manager while your father carries the entire corporate military burden alone? You mock my husband's age, but you cannot even match my skill with a bow. Damien's face flushed bright red with rage and embarrassment. That was a fluke. You are the spouse now. You belong in the private chambers, not speaking boldly in front of warriors. I will retreat to the private chambers when I grow bored of making foolish young alphas look incompetent. Elias shot back, sharp and unyielding. Then he turned to Julian, voice loud enough for the entire hall to hear. Since our guests are so deeply concerned about our marital stability, let us settle their worries with a simple sparring match, me against Lieutenant Damien. If I win, the whole clan doubles their annual warhorse tribute to the conglomerate. If he wins, well, he will not win. The court moved swiftly to the training gym. The elders panicked, wringing their hands. The spouse will bruise his soft skin. If he is hurt, the CEO will execute us all in a rage. Julian sat calmly in the viewing pavilion, leaning back, relaxed and unconcerned. Let him play. He is not as delicate as everyone believes. He knew a secret no one else did. The gentle Lily reputation was a lie. Elias had invented years ago to skip boring etiquette lessons and lazy corporate duties. Elias was sharp, trained fast, and fiercely competitive. In the arena, Damien grabbed a heavy iron training sword, sneering confidently. Elias picked up a thin, lightweight bamboo pole. You plan to herd sheep with that stick? Damien scoffed, arrogant and overconfident. No, Elias smiled sweetly. I plan to herd a noisy, arrogant donkey. The match began. Damien lunged forward with a brutal, heavy strike full of overconfident strength. Elias moved like smoke, slipping sideways effortlessly, robes fluttering around him. Whack! The bamboo pole landed sharply across Damien's backside, hard and clear. That's for calling me delicate, Elias said coolly. Damien roared, swinging again with blind rage. Elias ducked, rolled across the mat, and jabbed the pole sharp into the back of Damien's knees. The young alpha crumpled to the ground with a heavy, humiliating thud in front of the entire court. Elias leaned down, voice low and sharp, only for Damien's ears. And that's for mocking my husband. He is twice the man you will ever be. He is stronger, wiser, kinder, and far better with a sword than you could ever dream to be. Do not forget it. The crowd erupted into shock, cheering, applause. The elders stared, stunned, speechless. Julian stood slowly, a rare, genuine smile breaking across his cold, hardened face, pride warm and bright in his chest. That night, back in the penthouse, Elias soaked his slightly sore feet in a warm water basin, tired but triumphant, thoroughly pleased with his victory. The door opened, and Julian walked in carrying a small, polished lacquer wooden box. You were reckless today, Julian said, but his voice was soft, no scolding, only quiet fondness. I was magnificent, Elias corrected, wincing faintly as he shifted his sore ankle. Did you see his face? He looked like a crushed winter melon. Without a word, Julian sat on the edge of the bed, knelt down, and lifted Elias's foot gently into his large, calloused hands. He began massaging the sore arch slowly, carefully, tenderly. Elias froze, face heating up fast, heart fluttering unexpectedly in his chest. The strict, cold, unyielding warrior so was kneeling before him, tending to his small aches, gentle and caring. I doubled the Hua clan's warhorse tribute, Julian said quietly, his fingers working steady and soothing. And I banished Damien from the capital for 3 full years. He will not dare disrespect you again. Only 3 years. Elias teased, trying to ignore the warm flutter in his chest. Harsh punishment indeed. Julian looked up, amber eyes intense, sincere, unguarded. He looked at you like you were something he could take. You are not. You are mine. Elias's sassy retort died on his tongue. He stared at the man everyone called an old relic, the man forced upon him, the man he'd resented fiercely on their wedding day. And in that quiet moment, he saw only protection, devotion, quiet care, and steady strength. He saw home. Since I won you all those war horses, Elias mumbled, looking away shyly. I think I deserve the better side of the bed tonight, the one with the softer pillow. Julian chuckled low, lifting Elias's foot to press a soft kiss to his ankle. You may have the entire bed, little firecracker, as long as I am in it with you. 3 months passed in controlled, perfect chaos. Elias had taught the stern CEO to laugh daily, turned his boring morning meditation into competitive archery practice, taught the corporate guards to gamble with dried beans, and thoroughly softened the cold heart of the Dragon CEO. Their bond grew deep, slow, steady, soft and true. No longer forced duty, no longer reluctant tolerance. Real, quiet affection blooming between them. Then the snag arrived. 6 feet tall, 22 years old, charming, handsome, a decorated border war hero, poet, and skilled swordsman. General Zhao's son, Kalen Zhao, returned victorious from the northern frontier. Young, right? Exactly Elias's age. Easy to laugh with, easy to talk to, perfectly matched in energy. Elias sat on the garden wall, swinging his legs happily, holding up a beautifully carved jade whistle Kalen had gifted him. Look, he gave me this. It mimics a nightingale's song. Isn't he clever? Tomorrow, he's teaching me the new Western sword dance. He says my flexibility is unmatched in the entire tower. Julian sat nearby at a stone table, buried under corporate scrolls. The brush in his hand snapped clean in half. A vein throbbed sharply in his forehead. He did not look up, but his voice was cold enough to freeze the garden pond. Clever. A whistle. Very functional for a corporate spouse. Elias jumped down, robes fluttering, oblivious to the storm brewing. He's fun. He's my age. He gets me. Julian stood so abruptly his chair crashed backward to the ground. The hidden elders spying behind the bush gasped in unison. Flexibility? Julian growled, alpha aura rolling dark and stormy. He is a soldier. He should train boarders, not examine my spouse's flexibility. Elias tilted his head, playful and teasing, poking the bear deliberately. Are you jealous, Your Excellency? Worried your old bones cannot keep up with a lively Western sword dance. The entire corporate court suffered the fallout of Julian's jealousy that day. Southern bridge repairs, build them stronger. Minor border disputes, crush them immediately. Every nightingale bird in the capital, relocate to the frozen northern mountains. All jade decorations in the tower, replace them with bigger, brighter, more expensive jade to outshine Kalen's tiny whistle. Julian threw a silent, dignified CEO tantrum fit for a moody child. The cornered elders rushed to Elias in panic. The CEO is banning all birds. He is buying mountains of jade. He is deeply insecure. He thinks you will leave him for a younger companion. Elias paused mid-bite of candied fruit, eyes widening. A slow, wicked, affectionate smirk spread across his face. Oh, the dragon has insecurities. How adorable. This will be very fun to fix. That night, Elias entered the penthouse to find Julian standing, brooding by the moonlit window, silent, broody, tragically handsome, and miserable. Heard you banned all the nightingales, Elias said, suppressing a giggle. The capital is eerily quiet tonight. I prefer silence, Julian replied stiffly, emotionally closed off. Also heard you're buying entire mountains of jade. moving residences soon. Julian turned, face masked in corporate indifference, but his eyes were turbulent, raw, vulnerable. If you want young companionship, say so plainly. I will arrange dancers. I will not have you lingering in the training yard with boys half my age. Elias stepped closer, forcing Julian to look down at him. Soft and sincere now. No more teasing. You think I want a boy who compliments my flexibility and gives me silly whistles? He is your age, Julian said quietly, voice cracking faintly with hidden insecurity. He can dance your dances. He can walk beside you in the gardens without growing tired. I am stone and scars and graying temples. I have nothing but a golden cage to offer you. Elias snorted softly, fond and gentle. You really are an idiot. Brilliant CEO, but an idiot. He grabbed Julian's hand, pressing it firmly to his own heart, letting him feel the steady beat beneath. Kalen is loud, predictable, smells like horse sweat, and bores me to tears. You are the man who wiped dirt off my cheek in front of the entire board. You are the man who never flinches at my sharp temper. You are the man who protects me without hesitation. You are the man I trust. He stood on his tiptoes, lips brushing Julian's ear, voice warm and low. And for the record, I do not need a boy who can keep up with me. I need a strong, steady man who knows exactly what to do when he finally catches me. Julian's breath hitched. Every shred of insecurity melted away, replaced by burning, tender longing deeper than any fleeting jealousy. He pulled Elias flush against his chest, arms wrapping tight around his waist, holding him close like he never wanted to let go. You troublemaker, he rumbled, voice thick with emotion. You jealous dragon, Elias teased softly, smiling against his chest. It's cute. Do it more often. Do not push your luck, spouse. Then Julian lifted Elias easily into his arms, the Omega letting out a surprised, delighted yelp, and carried him to the bed. The outside world, the elders, the board, all forgotten. The elders are waiting outside the door again, aren't they? Elias whispered playfully. Julian glanced at the locked door, then back down at his mate, eyes dark with longing. Let them wait. Tonight, I give them exactly what they have been praying for. The candles burned low. The incense faded away. And at long last, without forced schemes, without herbal tricks, without pressure or duty, they became one. Slow, tender, passionate, honest. Two souls finally surrendering to the love that had grown between them. Not for the conglomerate, not for the alliance, not for an heir, but only for each other. Weeks later, Elias woke up nauseous, dizzy, craving impossible, bizarre foods only a pregnant Omega would desire. The corporate physician knelt, checked his pulse, then knelt again, bowing deep to the CEO. Your Excellencies, the spouse carries the heir. The bloodline is secured at last. The tower erupted in celebration. Julian transformed entirely into an overprotective, doting husband, hovering day and night, fetching rare delicacies, shielding Elias from stress, from noise, from every minor inconvenience. Elias took full advantage, demanding rare southern border snow-chilled leeches in midsummer, pouting dramatically when Julian hesitated, wrapping the CEO around his little finger effortlessly. But happiness never lasts unchallenged in corporate life. A dark shadow gathered on the border. The enemy Iron Fang clan watched the celebration, seething with rage. If the heir was born, the alliance would be unbreakable for generations. Their chance to overthrow the throne would vanish forever. They prepared to strike. A gift shipment arrived from a neutral border province. Rare, exotic purple orchids, beautiful, fragrant, innocent in appearance. Elias, bored of indoor confinement, insisted on inspecting the flowers personally in the garden. He leaned close, inhaling the scent, then instantly pulled back, his nose wrinkling with sharp, instinctive distrust. The orchids looked flawless, their violet petals glossy and full, drifting with a soft, honeyed sweetness that should have been soothing. But underneath the pleasant floral top note lingered a cold, bitter, metallic undertone that pricked the back of his throat and made his already uneasy stomach twist violently. Years of sneaking through palace shadows, picking wild blooms in the southern wilderness, and learning to spot toxic foliage as a mischievous boy had sharpened his senses far beyond those of any sheltered corporate noble. This was no ordinary garden fragrance. This was slow, silent poison, woven into every delicate petal, crafted to seep into the lungs and weaken an omega's body little by little, striking hardest at anyone carrying a fragile unborn heir. Guards stood scattered across the garden lawn, none the wiser, breathing in the tainted scent without a single reaction, blind to the deadly danger blooming right beneath their feet. Elias's playful mood vanished in a heartbeat, replaced by cold, razor-sharp alertness. He straightened slowly, hands instinctively cradling his lower belly, shielding the life growing inside him. Without a second thought, his gaze swept the quiet garden borders, scanning every shadow, every trimmed hedge, every seemingly idle servant loitering nearby. And he caught the faint, fleeting glint of hidden steel tucked inside a gardener's loose sleeve. The gift was never flowers. It was a death trap. Elias did not move an inch, keeping his posture relaxed on the surface so the hidden assassins would not sense his alarm. He tilted his head slightly, pretending to admire the delicate purple petals while his brain raced fast, calculating every escape route, every nearby guard position, every possible way to shield his unborn child. He breathed shallowly through his mouth, avoiding the toxic floral fumes drifting thicker and thicker through the quiet garden air, not daring to draw attention to his discovery. Then a shadow dropped like thunder over the garden. Julian had been watching from the corporate veranda all along. He'd left his state scrolls mid-work, unable to stay away from his pregnant mate, his alpha instinct screaming loud the second the tainted orchid scent drifted toward the main tower. He had not rushed blindly. He had signaled the hidden guards to circle the garden perimeter first, seal every exit, lock every hidden escape route for the lurking assassins. Now he stepped forward, sandalwood and iron alpha aura crashing over the garden like a heavy storm. Cold, lethal, unforgiving. Hands off the blades, Julian boomed, his voice shaking the stone lanterns lining the path. Every bird in the garden fell silent. Every low rustle of leaves died away. The false gardener froze, his blood turning to ice in his veins, knowing he had been caught red-handed, trapped with no way out. In the same heartbeat, 3 more assassins burst from the rose bushes, abandoning all stealth, their daggers glinting sharp in the afternoon sunlight. They had one last desperate chance. Cut through any defense, kill the spouse, kill the unborn heir, cripple the conglomerate before the Iron Fawn clan marched to the borders. Elias moved faster than anyone anticipated. Pregnant or not, sick or not, tired or not, he was still the Southern Omega who'd grown up climbing cliffs, shooting arrows at wild game, and outrunning guards for fun. He sidestepped the first lunge, grabbed the heavy stone flower pot beside the bench, and slammed it hard into the lead assassin's wrist. Crack! The man's dagger clattered to the ground. Useless, his bones broken instantly. I told you once, Elias snarled, eyes blazing with unyielding fire. I am not delicate. I am not weak. And I do not let strangers poison my home or threaten my family. Julian moved in like a storm incarnate. He did not draw a sword. He did not need armor. He was armor, forged by decades of bloodshed and battle. One sharp elbow to an assassin's jaw. One brutal palm strike to another's collarbone. One firm grip to pin the last attacker to the cold stone ground. The assassins whimpered beneath his overwhelming alpha pressure, powerless to fight back, powerless to even lift their weapons. The hidden guards swarmed in seconds later, binding the attackers tight with iron chains, dragging them away to the corporate dungeons for harsh interrogation. The poisonous orchids were burned on the spot, the toxic ashes buried deep beneath barren northern soil, where no scent could ever harm another living soul. As soon as the chaos faded, Julian turned, all lethal rage melting into raw, terrified tenderness. He crossed the garden in 3 long strides, pulling Elias gently into his arms, his hands hovering carefully over his swollen belly, afraid he'd been jostled, afraid the poison fumes had touched him, afraid the sharp blades had come too close. "Are you hurt?" Julian whispered, his voice rough with suppressed fear, his forehead pressing soft against Elias's temple. "Did any toxin touch your lungs? Did they graze you? Is our child safe?" Elias leaned into his chest, the adrenaline fading fast, leaving him shaky and tired. He wrapped both arms tight around Julian's waist, breathing in his safe, steady scent to calm his racing heart. "I'm fine. We're both fine. You came just in time, my overprotective old dragon." Julian lifted him carefully, holding him like fragile treasure, and carried him straight back to the warm penthouse chambers, away from the cold garden shadows, away from all lingering danger. No more outdoor walks alone. No more unsupervised gifts. No more hidden threats slipping past palace defenses. He would guard his mate and his heir with his very life. That night, under candlelight, the tortured assassins confessed everything. The Iron Fawn clan had planned the poisoned orchids, the hidden blades, the full border invasion to follow the spouse's death. They'd counted on chaos, on corporate grief, on a throne left vulnerable, without an heir to secure the bloodline. They'd counted on breaking the conglomerate from the inside out. The court fell into fearful unrest. Directors rushed to war rooms. Elders trembled in their chambers. Everyone waited for the CEO to rally the troops, to lead the march, to stand on the battlefield and crush the enemy clan as he'd done 100 times before. But Julian did not move from Elias's side. He sat beside the bed, holding Elias's hand, brushing soft hair from his forehead, feeding him warm honeyed plum soup to soothe his lingering nausea. "Let the directors plan the marches," he said firmly, dismissing all urgent war scrolls with a single wave. "My family comes first. The border can wait one more day. My mate cannot." Elias stared at him, soft and warm, his heart full to bursting. Then he shook his head, firm and determined, and squeezed Julian's hand tight. "No, you cannot hide away from me. You are the CEO. The people look to you. The soldiers look to you. The borders need you. I am safe here, guarded by 100 guards, wrapped in warm silk, cared for by the best physicians in the conglomerate. Go lead your army. I will hold the tower steady while you are gone." Julian hesitated, his amber eyes dark with conflict. He hated leaving his pregnant mate, hated leaving his heart unguarded, hated stepping away from the only peace he'd ever known in 20 lonely years. Elias leaned up, pressing a soft, reassuring kiss to his jaw. "Come back to me. Come back to our child. Come back home. That is all I ask." The next dawn, Julian rode out at the head of his corporate army, banners flying high, soldiers roaring loyalty, his heart left safely behind in the tower with his spouse and unborn son. He fought hard, fought fair, fought with the cold fury of a man protecting his family. The Iron Fawn clan crumbled within 7 days. Their forts burned to ash. Their leaders surrendered in chains. Their endless greed and cruelty ended forever. The borders were secured. The conglomerate was safe once more. While he fought, Elias ruled the tower with quiet, steady strength. He calmed the panicking elders, checked the supply routes for the frontline soldiers, rewarded loyal assistants, punished any guard who slacked on security, and slept with one hand always resting on his belly, whispering soft promises to his unborn baby that their father would come home soon. When Julian returned victorious, the tower gates opened wide, cheering crowds lining the streets. But the CEO did not pause for celebrations. He did not accept laurels or praise. He rode straight to the penthouse, dropped to his knees beside Elias, and kissed his belly, breathing in the quiet, living proof of their love. Weeks turned to soft, peaceful winter days. The first snow fell, dusting the tower rooftop pure white, and the moment the entire conglomerate had waited for finally arrived. Labor came fast and fierce, and Elias endured every ache, every sharp pain, every exhausting hour with quiet, stubborn strength, refusing to cry out too loud, refusing to worry his anxious husband pacing outside the doors. Julian wore a hole in the stone floor with his endless pacing, his hands clenched tight, his heart racing. He ignored all corporate reports, all messenger calls, all urgent family letters. Nothing mattered but Elias. Nothing mattered but the safe arrival of their child. Then a clear, strong, healthy cry cut through the winter hush. A strong, perfect alpha heir was born, with Julian's sharp amber eyes and Elias's bright, mischievous smile. The bloodline was secure, the alliance unbreakable, the conglomerate blessed beyond measure. Julian rushed to Elias's side before even glancing at his son, taking his hand, pressing soft kisses to his knuckles, whispering endless thanks to heaven for keeping his mate safe. "You are my miracle," he repeated over and over, quiet and reverent. "Only you." Years slipped by, gentle and sweet. The young heir, Julian Jr., grew bold, bright, and clever, climbing all over his father's broad shoulders, stealing his mother's candied plums, and learning to shoot arrows before he could even walk. Steadily, the cold, fearsome dragon Sen softened completely into a doting, smiling husband and father, never raising his voice in anger, never shedding blood without just cause, never letting a single day pass without telling Elias he loved him. Elias never lost his sharp tongue, his playful mischief, his love of climbing trees and teasing his husband. He remained the conglomerate's fiery, beloved spouse, the lily with thorns who had tamed a dragon, who had saved a dynasty, who had turned a forced, political marriage into the greatest love story the four conglomerates had ever witnessed. On quiet, starry nights, they stood together on the penthouse balcony, watching their son chase fireflies in the garden below. Julian wrapped his warm cloak around Elias's shoulders, holding him close against the cold night breeze. "Do you ever regret it?" Julian asked softly after all these years. "The wedding, the red robes, the life you never chose at first." Elias smiled, leaning his head on Julian's chest, listening to the steady heartbeat that had become his home. "I regret nothing. I lost a fiancé once, but I gained a husband, a home, a son, and a conglomerate that loves me exactly as I am. I did not choose the crown, but I chose you. Every single day, I choose you all over again." Julian kissed the top of his head, quiet and eternal. No scandal remained. No whispers lingered. No judgment stayed. The story of the Omega who married his father-in-law was told for generations, not as shame, not as scandal, but as proof that love can bloom from duty, that warmth can melt cold stone, that a wild lily and a lonely dragon can build a forever happy ending. The tower was quiet. The stars were bright. Their love was endless. The first time their son, Julian Jr., spoke a full sentence, Elias nearly dropped his favorite jade teacup. They were in the garden, the same garden where assassins had once lurked, now transformed into a peaceful sanctuary of blooming cherry trees and koi ponds. The little boy, barely 2 years old, sat on a silk blanket, stubbornly refusing to eat his chopped peaches. His amber eyes, so like his father's, glared at the spoon in his mother's hand with a defiance that was pure Elias. "No," the toddler declared, shoving the spoon away. "No eat. Play." Elias raised an eyebrow. "You need to eat, little dragon. Peaches make you strong." "No. Strong already." Julian Jr. flexed his tiny arms, proving absolutely nothing. From across the garden, Julian looked up from his corporate scrolls, his stern expression cracking into something dangerously close to a smile. "He gets his stubbornness from you. He gets his vocabulary from you." Elias shot back, though his voice was fond, short, commanding, and utterly unreasonable. Julian set down his scroll and walked over, kneeling beside his son. He picked up the spoon, his massive hand dwarfing the tiny utensil, and held it out to the boy. "One bite. Then you can chase the koi fish." The toddler considered this with the gravity of a CEO negotiating a merger. Then he opened his mouth. Elias watched, amused and warm, as Julian fed their son with a patience he never showed anyone else. The man who had once been called the Dragon Emperor, cold, unyielding, feared, was now making airplane noises to convince a toddler to eat fruit. "You're going to spoil him," Elias said. "I am his father. That is my privilege." Julian Jr. finished his peaches, then immediately scrambled to his feet and toddled toward the koi pond at full speed. Elias sighed, got up, and followed at a more dignified pace. The fish scattered as tiny hands splashed the water. Julian Jr. laughed, bright, free, joyful, and Elias felt his heart crack open a little more. He had never imagined this life, never dared to hope for it. And yet here it was, a husband who adored him, a son who was chaos incarnate, and a home that was no longer a golden cage but a sanctuary. Later that evening, after the boy had been bathed, fed, and finally convinced to sleep, Elias stood on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Julian joined him, wrapping an arm around his waist. "You're quiet," Julian observed. "I'm thinking." "Dangerous." Elias laughed softly. "I was thinking about the wedding night. How much I hated you. How convinced I was that my life was over." Julian's arm tightened around him. "And now I can't imagine a life without you." Elias turned to face him, his eyes bright. "You were supposed to be a burden, Julian. A cold, distant, old dragon who would lock me in a tower and forget I existed. Instead," he reached up, tracing the scar on Julian's jaw. "Instead, you became home." Julian caught his hand, pressing a kiss to his palm. "You were supposed to be a quiet, obedient lily. Instead, you became the storm that woke me up." They stood there in comfortable silence, the city humming below them. "Elias." Thank you." Elias looked up at him, surprised. "For what?" "For not giving up. For fighting back. For making me laugh when I had forgotten how." Julian's voice was low, rough with emotion. "For giving me a son. For giving me this." Elias's throat tightened. He didn't trust his voice, so he simply leaned up and kissed him. Soft, slow, full of all the things he couldn't say. When they pulled apart, Julian's amber eyes were warm. "The elders are planning another romantic retreat next week." Elias groaned. "Not again. Last time, they locked us in the wine cellar for 6 hours. This time it's a private hot spring. That's worse. Much worse." Julian's lips curved. "I told them we would consider it. After all, the heir needs a sibling." Elias's face flushed. "You did not." "I did." The matriarch nearly wept with joy. "You are impossible. And yet you married me." "And yet," Elias said, leaning into his chest, "I married you." Somewhere inside the penthouse, Julian Jr. let out a sleepy cry. Neither of them moved for a moment. Then Julian sighed. "I'll get him." "No, I will. You've been working all day." Elias slipped inside and padded to the nursery. The little boy was standing in his crib, arms outstretched, tears on his cheeks. Elias lifted him, cradling him against his chest. "Sho, baby. Mama's here." Julian Jr. sniffled, burying his face in Elias's neck. His small hands fisted in Elias's shirt. No leave. I'm not leaving, little dragon. I'm right here. He rocked the boy back to sleep, humming a soft lullaby. When he finally laid him back down, Julian was standing in the doorway, watching with an expression that made Elias's heart ache. What? Elias whispered. Nothing. Julian's voice was thick. I just never thought I would have this. Any of this. Elias crossed the room and took his hand. Neither did I. But here we are. They stood there in the dim light of the nursery, watching their son sleep, and Elias knew, with absolute certainty, that the cursed Omega, the reluctant bride, the thorny lily, had finally found exactly where he belonged.